Bodybuilding is not what it once was. There, I said it. 2025 Mr. Olympia is over. Congrats, Derek Lunsford, but no one is going to compete with what bodybuilding was 10 years ago. If you're 30 years or older, an affluent man that's a provider, an earner, and you're looking to get in the best shape of your life, well, today's bodybuilding is not going to be your best source of inspiration. Let's get into why. The 2025 Mr. Olympia results are in, and honestly, I don't follow bodybuilding a lot anymore. I don't know how involved you are, but the lineups now just aren't what they once were. Blocky appearances, not nearly as many cuts, and no consecutive winners. It's been 10 plus years since someone's won the Olympia more than 3 times in a row, and there was a few dominant individuals back then. Let's get into why bodybuilding is not impressive, but really not all too impressive nowadays. Look, Derek Lunsford, he looks pretty good. He's a mass monster. He's obviously shredded. Everyone at this level is shredded, but what is truly aesthetically pleasing? I think a lot of people, more so than not, look at these physiques and they're like, dude, what is this? The midsection's bigger than what most people's thighs are put together. And the goal of aesthetics and bodybuilding, when it first began, man, even in the Arnold days, the 70s, the 80s, there were aesthetic physiques where we had the V-taper, we had the X-frame where the quads came into a thin waist, then we went back out into that V-taper with the nice lats. But now it's kind of just blob looking. I want to get into a few of my thoughts and why I feel like if you're 30 years and older, you really shouldn't be looking at bodybuilding as your source of inspiration. You shouldn't even be following these IFBB bodybuilder pros. I know it's kind of harsh to say, but man, people get into their subconscious mind of what's possible, what's encouraging, what's discouraging. When you follow the wrong sources of information, you realize how much dedication and work they're putting in, but also how many drugs they're putting into their bodies. So we're not going to dive into that specifically today, but I want to talk about how bodybuilding was once a true inspiration, whereas now I feel like it's just a farce. I think a good example to use is Nick Walker. He was one of the hype men coming into this Olympia, and he is just huge, dude. Like, this guy is and by huge, honestly, I don't even think I mean huge in necessarily a nice way, because he's blocky, man. He's big. If you look at a direct comparison of Nick Walker and Phil Heath, the reign that Phil Heath had during his Mr. Olympia titles was super impressive. And you can tell, yes, Phil Heath, you could technically classify him as a mass blob as well, but it was more of a refined physique. You could see the waist is more trim. You could see the lining on his abs here, whereas Nick Walker just blew out his midsection. I mean, we once thought that Jay Cutler and Phil Heath were blowing out their midsections, but now we're at a whole new level of blowing out the midsection. Even a guy like Big Ramy, like, it goes without saying anything. Look at this guy's physique. Look at his midsection specifically. When you really focus on these key areas of what bodybuilding should be, you think to yourself, the heck? That waist is wide as heck. Which, honestly, it's a tough game to play, because when you're playing with this level of drugs in the body, everything's going to grow. Growth hormone, organs, I mean, it's no surprise that the midsection is blown out to this proportion, but come on, it takes away the aesthetics. Where's the Frank Zane days? Where's the Arnold days? They at least had the big muscular appearance, but they kept the waist nice and trim. Try to get one of these guys doing a stomach vacuum these days. Forget about it. By the way, even though I'm not involved with bodybuilding nowadays, look at the reign of someone like Phil Heath. 7 Mr. Olympias in a row. There's a reason why. He still had an aesthetically pleasing physique. The deep cuts in his legs were incredible. He had boulders on all areas of his body, but he still kept the waist slim enough to where when he hit a most muscular, for example, he still had the X frame. And nowadays, when you look at maybe this year's winner, maybe Big Ramy from his Mr. Olympia title win, or even just viral sensation Nick Walker. These guys don't have that same appearance. You can see the comparison here. These guys don't have what Phil Heath had. Would you agree? Comment a 1 below if you think Phil Heath was the ultimate king in bodybuilding, if you follow it, and dude, give me a 2 if you disagree. But I can't see how anyone would think nowadays these bodybuilders are going up against guys like Phil Heath and Jay Cutler. Even using this this video of Nick Walker here. This is just, man, I see this and I just don't get impressed. This is the level of bodybuilding that it's grotesque. We're going to use the word grotesque. Waist, way too wide. Quads, definitely not defined in all areas, especially when put side by side with Phil Heath. Glute striations are hamstrings are back double bi, not anywhere near what the other pros have. And the lower back skin here is wrinkly. I get that's something you probably can't fully combat, but come on, where's the Christmas tree that we once used to have? I mean, dude, the Christmas tree in the lower back is the best way to show off the erectors and the tie-in to the lats. It's non-existent here. We're just looking at skin folds. Look at this picture of Jay Cutler. This is just crazy. I know there's some editing involved here and he's really popping out from the background and the foreground, but he is diced here. I mean, look at the lats come down into the waist and the cuts in the quads, and look at his traps to his shoulders. I mean, this guy is just muscle on muscle. And you look at Nick Walker and you're like, he's a big old blob. Am I right? I think there's something to this. Just like every industry, everything can always be abused and taken to a level that maybe it shouldn't be. But I even think from the 212 division, the Keon, he looks good, man. When you look at a guy like Flex Lewis, who's won the 212 bodybuilding title from 2012 to 2018, he had the only reign for that long. Flex Lewis looked incredible, man. He had an amazing physique. But I don't think nowadays even the 212 competitors stand up to what Flex Lewis was doing in the same era that Phil Heath and Jay Cutler were, because that was true bodybuilding, man. I think what really changed the game was in the early 90s when Dorian Yates came into the equation. He really took bodybuilding from this Frank Zane total aesthetic look to more of a mass monster. Dorian Yates crossed that line of holy crap, we've entered a new era of bodybuilding with the amount of sheer size that these guys are starting to put on. But at the end of the day, every industry, porn, pickleball with the advanced paddles they're making now for that small court, bodybuilding, everything is taken out of context. And there's a new limit of what's possible, and then there's a new judging criteria, right? So I look at this past weekend, and honestly, I'm just popping out of critiquing bodybuilding in a way that we do, and just thinking to myself, man, what level have we gotten to? Like, what's next? Let's see who can take the most performance-enhancing drugs and blow the physique up as big as possible, but take away the aesthetics. I don't know, man, call me old school, but every affluent male out there that's trying to live the best life, feel and look their best, who wants this? So everyone's following these goats and admiring these guys, but time and time again, this is not the physique that most men look up to, admire, or even respect from a health perspective, man, especially from a health perspective, but also a physical appearance perspective. So, as easy as it is to say that we could just pop back into the old days, even just 10, 15 years ago. Look at Phil Heath, man, one more time. Look at this physique. Look at him posing here. This is great. I mean, he's big, overly big, but he looks much, much better than last night's winner. So, I don't know about you, but I'm going to stick to what I do best, living that 10 out of 10 life. And you should find who truly inspires you to make you be your best self for what you value in life. Let me know what your overall thoughts were on the 2025 Mr. Olympia results from the open category to the 212 division. I think it's pretty cool. I don't even keep up on classic physique and all these new divisions because it's just so different now. But I'm also at a stage in my life where I'm 32 years old, I'm running a business, taking care of my family, I'm traveling, looking out for those that I truly care about, and helping our clients look and feel their best in the ways that they want. So an untraditional take for you on the 2025 Mr. Olympia results, but you know what? I think this is a realistic perspective of what the average individual, the average high-achieving male perspective would be of bodybuilding nowadays, and I'm sticking to it. Appreciate you guys following the channel. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time here at Team InstaShred.